podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Dr. Mike Gustafson and not a doctor, Clint Scott. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you today until what time?
Probably 6.
Probably 6.
Well, also, could you keep on every time you introduce me, just introduce me as something that I'm not?
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be
Challenge
fun for me.
accepted. Yeah. And you know, it maybe it wasn't quite Princeton beat Yale, but I mean, Japan won Group E in the World Cup. They won their group. It included Spain, which also advanced to the knockout round, and Germany.
Princeton Yale or Princeton UCLA?
Oh, Princeton UCLA.
Okay, that's
sorry,
right.
yeah.
I was thinking. I knew you have deep. I knew he had deep Ivy League ties and interests and all those things,
Germany's
and it
going
reflects
home.
right there.
That's got to be a monumental.
Yeah.
What's
upset.
home in German?
Huh?
What's home in German?
Seems like something easily looked up.
Oh, it's Heimat.
I mean, that's a European traveler right there.
Or, I mean, house is house. Or maybe Haas, one of the
Haas.
two.
Okay.
Yeah.
The HAUS.
Mm-hmm.
Like beer house.
A house. There's like almost a W in there. House.
Right.
How you going, Gus? Did you get you exhausted from that game last night?
I did go and I did enjoy it. But, yeah, I'm just, me. I'm just trying to stack that paper, AD.
Oh, yeah? No 401k for a hustler. Stack that paper. No 401k for a hustler.
There you go. I did listen to a little bit of Paul Wall on my way up here. That's why I thought, that's why it just was top of mind. Normally it's a much more boring middle-aged white guy answer, but today, however, was a lot juicier when I talked about stacking paper. I don't think I succeeded at it, but that's just, what I tried to do.
Love to get your thoughts and comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at doublet973.com. All guests appear via the Benchmark hotline. Somebody asks this. This is from Chris, the Dasher. Are you doing the show live from the Double T Scoreboard today? That's supposed to get underway in like 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Surely there's a live stream somewhere.
Ooh. Or there will be. There will be some sort of video somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
It may not be live streams. You're probably right, but at the very least, somebody's got a cell phone transfixed on it to see the big moment in which it gets lifted up, and it'll be great if thing gets sat down in one piece. That would open up a whole can of opportunity, I would think.
How confident are you that they are going to try to lift it up?
I don't know. That's why I said we could talk about laying it down. Maybe. Who knows? What are you looking for? Looking for the cacti?
No.
Oh.
I guess we're still on the... How's the internet?
I'd go Team Router. Or, Team Hotspot.
Team Hotspot,
All
right.
Yeah.
This in the chat line. Say, guys, do you think the news of the college football playoff expansion is good news or bad news for Oklahoma and Texas?
Oh. I think it's good news in general for college football. I didn't think about it in the context of Oklahoma and Texas.
I think it's good news for really everyone.
Yeah,
frankly,
I can't imagine why it wouldn't be.
Like if you're Alabama, and you're no stranger to the 4-team playoff, now you can be comforted by the fact that at least until Nick Saban leaves, whether that's next year or 20 years from now, even in your down years, you'll be going to the playoff.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? I mean, because they're knocking at the door right now, and they've got 2 losses. So
yeah, they'd be in this 12-team field.
Yeah,
sure,
absolutely. It's great news for everybody, and even the teams that are regular participants, like Ohio State, like Clemson, like Alabama, like Georgia. you get something new out of this potentially if you're not ranked in the top 4, and that is a home playoff game.
Campus game.
You know?
Can you imagine?
And so that's a gigantic benefit. Like I would imagine that folks, in Tuscaloosa, in Athens, in Columbus, in Clemson, South Carolina, would be over the moon to host a playoff game at their own stadiums. I think it's great news for everybody. It makes the regular season better. It makes these games in the last few weeks of November mean so much more for so many more teams. Mm-hmm. And even the teams that are, at this point right now, thought to be kind of locked in, well, you still want to keep winning for seeding purposes.
It's one of the reasons why, and I'm stepping away from this specifics of this college baseball, this college football playoff expansion, to just a broader conversation about expanding playoffs. It's one of the reasons why it always happens. We can't come up with an example of playoff contraction, I don't think. Maybe we can. UIL has expanded from 2 to 3 to 4 teams, and NHL, and on and on and on. But the reason why is it's good for business across the board. There's not a lot of no votes for it. There's just not a lot of no votes for that in hardly any instance, because the number one perk is exactly what you just said. It keeps more fan bases interested longer. When Texas Tech was 4-5, heck, when we were 4-4, right? Yeah, you're done. You would be out of it. But now you would have an opportunity, as long as you can stay in the hunt for that second championship game spot, and so that extends it another 2 or 3 weeks. We were having fun with it took like 12 steps, but a scenario in which Tech could get into the game this weekend against TCU, and it was a very specific, and somebody had pathed it all out, which was fun to think about. But then it started with our win, of course, over Oklahoma, and it might have even been the week prior to that. But there's the point right there. More teams interested longer, and that's why we see it across so many levels. And I think there's certainly room for it in a sport like college football, where everyone's so interested in it. It's not like it went from 4 teams to 32. It went from 4 to 12. Maybe the next logical step some way, 10 years down the road in 2036 will be add 4 more and get to 16 teams. Who knows? But I just think it's great, man. I think it's great as a fan of the sport, and I think it's great for Texas Tech.
More Tech Talk coming up next on Double T 97.3.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, it's the Juice on Double T 97.3 and Double T973.com, brought to you by our good friends at Specs Wine, Spirits, and Finer Foods. Time for some headlines. The Texas Tech Red Raider men's basketball team defeated Georgetown last night in the Big East Big 12 battle. 79-65 was the final from the USA. Red Raiders now 5-2 on the season. Georgetown falls to 500, 4-4. Jalen Tyson and Devion Harmon both scored 18 points in the contest. Daniel Bacho had his second career double-double. Tech will be back in action on Wednesday, December the 7th, so a week from yesterday, against Nichols, 7 o'clock tip-off, I believe. Lady Raiders will begin an 8-game homestand tonight. They'll welcome Alabama State into the USA. How about this? This opens a program record 8-game homestand.
Yeah, I heard somebody say that this morning, and I was surprised. I'll be darned.
That's like they put it in the notes, and this is coming from Texas Tech, and they would know. Mm-hmm. I'm not doubting it. I'm just saying that sounds unbelievable. You know what I'm saying? Like, for his, I don't know.
Been around, yeah.
I would have thought that they would have had longer homestands.
45 years worth of records. You would have thought that there would have been somewhere, especially maybe back in the early days when they were all jumping into 3 university vans and driving all over the place, you'd have thought that there would have been a stretch. But, yeah, that's interesting.
And finally, some coaching carousel news to share. Former Texas head football coach Tom Herman, 2 years after he was let go from the Longhorns, has resurfaced as the head coach of the Florida Atlantic Owls. You too can join the program. We'd love to hear from you on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at doublet973.com.
Thus ending his candidacy at Cincinnati, which I'm guessing wasn't really candidacy. It was more just the speculation of a writer. But it felt like this was going to be the year that Tom Harmon tried to get back in the head coaching game, and there's probably worse places to land.
Yeah, I mean, Lane Kiffin showed that you can win there.
You bet.
How about this? If you're FAU, you've now hired, your last 2 hires were at one point the head coach of Oregon and Florida State, Willie Taggart, and also Texas, and Tom Herman. And
before that, the Oakland Raiders, Tennessee Volunteers. And,
absolutely. Great point. Yeah, I can't believe I missed that one.
That's all right.
We are currently monitoring a live stream of the Double T scoreboard removal from the campus of Texas Tech. As of 3:19, very little movement that we can detect.
Yeah, lots of cables being put in place, so we'll see. Folks walking around, and it feels like a rocket launch. It does. All we're missing is a narration. Maybe a live mic from the somebody that's sitting maybe in the cabin of the crane, and somebody else, project manager up on the roof. They're probably connected by radio.
There look to be 5 or 6 workers on the roof, so it doesn't seem like they're super close to kind of teeing off. I would imagine that those folks wouldn't be on there when they're going to start to yank.
Because you would think that, because I would think that there's a risk of that roof, who knows, caving in or whatever. Now, if I guess in the perfect world, they just lift that bad boy off and set it down over there on the grass or something. But, I think the fear is, and it looks like they're not just grabbing it by the top of it. They're spending some time on this, and obviously it's on YouTube, so you can go watch it yourself. But yeah, it's a slow developing play, if you will.
That's right. Yeah. Love to get your thoughts and comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at doublet973.com. All guests appear via the Benchmark hotline. This on the chat line from our friend Mr. Roy. He says that he went to the game last night, was a little bit late getting there because of traffic. Game was awesome, though.
Yep.
I mean, it wasn't great at a certain point in the second half when you give up like a 20-2 run to Georgetown, which is not, a great basketball team, but you still ended up winning by, double digits or close to it.
Yeah, and I was trying to. I was playing both sides of that emotion, and the real value of it is what Coach Adams would say in terms of what truly comes out of that, the moments that can be learned from, etc. But on one hand, I was like, you know what? You get more out of a game where a team plays their way back in it and pushes you. Which is what was it? Texas Southern that did that. One of the teams we played, in the second or third game, pushed us a little bit. Third game, before
Louisiana Tech.
There you go. Yeah, they pushed us enough that you go. You know what? Because it was the same thing where everybody's doing the sway and just sort of having the basketball game event party, which is great. But sort of oblivious to the score and hey, when somebody wins the next dunk, wins the next whatever, and then all of a sudden, hey, I turned to my son like, dude, this is a 10-point game. Because people were kind of trickling out because it was roughly 10 minutes left in the game. And then in a I don't know what that was, 5, 6, 7 minute run, it's down to 6, it's down to 4. And you could kind of hear that Sneed and I and a bunch of us always talk about it, baseball, nervous clapter, which isn't a word, but it's just that, hey, come on. And, everybody's trying to, and of course that comes from a baseball context, but that's what it was. It was just sort of this frenzied, and it looked like we made some plays offensively in a couple next possessions, but we're a little tight and missed shots. You know, little bunny, little runner in the lane, and those kind of things. I'm like, man, this is. But then to pull away and win that way, you go, okay, those were meaningful minutes, the sort of test you get that you want to pass. On the other hand, I would have preferred to coast to an 18-point win. You know, so what would you rather have? Who knows? But yeah, it was interesting just to look over there. I mean, first things first, to look over there at Patrick Ewing. You know, to go, there's Patrick. Yeah, that guy was on the dream team, and yeah, and I looked up his age. He turned 60 like in August, and yesterday was famously Bo Jackson's 60th birthday. So for a guy my age who was been like high school when those dudes were prominent, it's just like, man, those guys were as big as it gets right there. You had the best player in college basketball, and you had, and then, Bo Jackson's birthday yesterday. Like, man, that was something else to look down there and see him and coaching his tail off and just getting after it. So
you went Georgetown. You didn't go, man, that is the 7th biggest star from Space Jam down there on that sideline.
You know what? Brooks did that. My son did that. He goes, he was the one that couldn't make I don't know what the plot, whatever Ewing's plot was.
Into my body and into my brain.
Yeah, he couldn't. Yeah, wasn't he like unable to make a shot? There was something he couldn't do.
He couldn't make a free throw. He hit a popcorn guy.
There it is, right there.
Yeah.
There it is. And so Brooks was telling me that, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember that. Like, I don't remember that specific plot aspect to it, but him being in there.
His talent turned into the purple aliens.
There you go. See?
Imagine, telling Mark Adams when he's 36 years old and he's taking over UT Pan Am that, hey, down the line,
from Wayland Baptist,
you're going to be coaching against Patrick Ewing in Georgetown.
And you will have beaten Louisville the week before.
Yeah, by like 1 million.
I know.
More Tech Talk next.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T973.com with Dr. Mike Gustafson and not a podiatrist, Clint Scott. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you today until 6:30.
You're 1 for 2. You missed the last one.
Well, I didn't introduce Gus either.
Sounds like an excuse.
No, it's just facts, homie. We will have Astro Line on 100.7 The Score tonight at 6 o'clock, featuring America's team, the Houston Astros, and that will be followed at 7 by Lady Raider basketball against Alabama State. We'll have more Lady Raider coverage starting at 6:30 on 107.7 Yes FM. Then tonight at 6:30 on Double T 97.3, we'll have Thursday night football, Bills at the Patriots. We get this in the chat line. Somebody says, radio all day has railed on Texas Tech's effort last night. One of Georgetown's best players had been out and was a surprise start. We won by 14. Guess the job is to be polarizing and conflicting to the fan base. Job well done.
I think I presented it by saying you could look at that two ways. That one way was that
I don't think that was about you.
Okay.
And I kind of feel the same way. Like it would have been a terrible loss, right? But you didn't lose, right? And you won by 14, which is a 3 away from covering the spread. You played with your food a little bit, and they got back into the game. I think that that you showed that you were the more disciplined, tougher physically and mentally team, and you just kind of salute and move on. I don't know that this game will be something that we talk about in February or March. I don't think that this game will define your season. Now, maybe it would have with a loss, but you didn't lose, So we knew going in this was going to be a young team. We knew going in that without Fardaws Amac, you were going to be an incomplete team. And that's the deal, and honestly, that's going to be the deal the rest of the way out, because by the time you kind of get settled and figure out kind of who you are and what you are, Fardaws will be back, hopefully. And so you got to kind of integrate him into everything, because the roles that people had when he went out, the experience level people had when he went out, the maturity that people had when he went out, that's all going to be different here in a month or so.
Yeah, and last night the most I guess the right way to say it, one of the positives was 5 guys in double figures. Gotta love that. And those are the 5 dudes that played 30 minutes or more. Actually, Pop was at 29, Jalen Tyson at 30, but a 34 and 2 35s. 2 35s from your 2 bigs, if you will, in O'Banner and Bacho. And so does that present a level of concern? Yeah, it does with AMAC, but not the singular act of them playing 35 minutes last night, but just how it's really hard to get them off the floor at this point in time. And the KJ Allen's been one of the big guy subs this year, and last night he played 2 minutes. Robert Jennings played 8 minutes. Now, one thing that Georgetown had was size. They're not a great team, but they're a big team. And, there's probably a spot or two on our roster if they want to, if somebody wanted to defect from their, like, not get on the plane last night, Coach, I want to play for you. Right. We'll find a spot for a couple of those big dudes. But, I'm excited about them. I think there's big challenges ahead. I think isn't tonight and I'm focusing on one key Big 12 opponent here, but isn't tonight the Creighton-Texas game?
I think that's right.
Yeah, and so that's a big one for and I think that one's in Austin, but that's a big one for measuring stick type stuff.
And then after that, there's a huge
What are you eating?
Seton Hall, Kansas matchup.
There you go.
Clint.
As well.
Dun 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 dun.
Lunch.
What's for lunch?
What is it, though?
It's 3 o'clock. It can't be lunch.
It's not.
It is a microwavable Chuck Wagon gas station burger because I forgot to bring my leftovers today. So.
From the place up the road or down the street or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
You went with a burger?
We just didn't have a lot that I could keep in the fridge.
Oh.
It was kind of picked over when I got there.
So I would have gone hot dog.
The roller cart over there wasn't very full at the time I was there this morning.
Well, next time, just holler. I'll snag you something on the way up.
Okay. Well, hopefully I don't forget my lunch again.
Yeah.
But I have no complaints. So this is my go-to special after I call games like over in Amarillo or something. If it's not this, if it's the gut bomb burrito. But,
So that's how you keep your girlish figure. I was wondering what you've been doing.
yeah, it's with some desk ketchup.
I mean, that
Boy, it's
sounds
hitting
so
the
much
spot back
better.
here.
That makes it sound so much better. Desk ketchup, not just ketchup.
Desk
Because then
ketchup.
we could imagine.
Do you
well,
keep your
place like
ketchup in a fridge or in the pantry?
fridge.
Well, these are in my desk.
But
they give me.
yeah, no, that
I've got a sauce drawer of leftover sauces.
A
I don't have
sauce
anything.
drawer.
I don't have anything
Man,
else
is
except
that a
for like some
euphemism?
papers, pencils.
That's the
and a
fattest
sauce
thing
drawer.
I've ever heard of.
the fattest thing I've ever heard
You
of.
go check it out.
Sauce drawer.
Maybe the only thing worse would be like a pudding drawer or something.
man.
A
The
dessert
great thing is though, like before today, I think this is the first time I've got to utilize it. So, if you guys
how
need
full
anything?
is the sauce drawer? Is it just like a couple of packets, or is it like got substance
Uh,
there? Like, could you submerge your hand in the sauce like Scrooge
No,
McDuck diving
that's
through
the
the
goal.
gold coins?
That's the
Okay.
goal. It's probably 20 packets in
All
there,
right.
I think.
Okay,
Of different
some work
stuff.
to do.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. And so the packets can stay. The packets are different than the bottle of ketchup. You asked that question. A bottle of ketchup or mustard's going in the fridge. The packets can go in the
But
little,
see-
that butter tray thing on your fridge. It might not have butter in it. It's great for all the horsey sauce packets and all the crap that he's got in his drawer. Or you can just throw them in a junk drawer.
What I don't understand though is how can ketchup be left out at like a diner or a restaurant on a table?
It's something
But
chemically with the vinegar. Once it's been refrigerated, it has to be refrigerated.
Is that right?
But if it isn't refrigerated, it's fine.
Right. That's
Okay.
the way I understand it.
That's all right. I feel vindicated. I've always been a ketchup out of the fridge guy.
Like in a bottle.
Yeah. Not just like
bottle.
not just like open or like in a Ziploc bag. But the wife has always been very pro fridge, so we keep it in the fridge.
I don't know if I would accept ketchup from a Ziploc bag. That would be one of the weirder things offered.
If I knew it was Heinz, I would. But if because you don't know if it was like Hunt's or something like that.
Are you a ketchupist?
Was that a live read? What was that?
Yeah, I am very, very partisan in favor of Heinz ketchup.
So Jamie and I are going to do this on the bottom line sometime because he's the same way.
Condiment ranking.
He thinks that he can blind taste test the ketchup, which I think is ridiculous. How confident are you that you could tell the brands?
So when you do that, you could go here. I mean, because otherwise you just have like two or three out of the bottle. What if you did like a fourth or fifth? I mean, because you can't just make it so to get a little more randomization. Go get a couple of fast food packets.
Fast food packets, great value, store brands. We can get like 7 ketchup deep.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You need to go because because then you're really still it's still about the 3 bottles. I mean, him identifying Hunt's, Heinz, and whatever, but you need to have the others in there as quality distractors.
My money's on the ketchup.
That's impressive right there.
Somehow this is not like June. More tech talk next.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Dr. Mike Gustafson and Clint, not a pilot, Scott. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you today until 6:30. Would love to hear your thoughts and comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at Double T 97.3.com. All guests appear via the Benchmark hotline. You seem like you were going to say something and you were flipping. Sorry. Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't interrupt your... Keith has this in the chat line. Why couldn't they wait until Monday to remove the scoreboard, especially with tomorrow being Carol of Lights and the official kickoff for the centennial celebration?
I think the final act for the scoreboard was the Oklahoma game, and now you're cutting. I mean, the paperwork was signed, and that area. Don't ask me how they marked it off exactly, but that now belongs to a 501c3. And so I don't know how you could. And here's the other thing. Remember yesterday, one of our questions was 18 months and it's going to rain and then it'll be delayed and blah, 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 and it'll cut into the 2024 season. Well, I get it. The texter's asking for 5 more days or whatever, actually 1 more day, but it would end up being 4 more work days. I think there's a need to just get on with it. I don't know how many people from the street are going to be, for the Carol Lights, are going to be looking at that Double T scoreboard. That's all. I got to say that with all due respect to the texture.
We've known that it was going to be eventually removed for a decade.
Yes.
We've known that it was going to be taken away, demolished, torn down, lifted up, however you want to describe this act that's going on right now on the campus of Texas Tech. We've known that was going to happen after the Oklahoma game for months.
Mm-hmm.
Had plenty of time to go take pictures, man.
Right. And most of us, most of us were able to, I'm saying most of us, I was fortunate to get to go to the game, but, if you got in a game this fall, you were able to get the picture. And I wanted a picture from my seat. You know what I mean? Like the view I've seen from my seat. And I'm not parallel to it, but I am kind of up here to the southwest corner, and so my view is sort of tilted like what we're seeing on this YouTube right here. But when that final score the other night happened, like, this is a good way to end it right here. Click. But we will never be short on photos of that scoreboard.
No.
And because it has been, it will live on in what do we call the internet? Ether or whatever. Sure. It was forever, and it's been photographed in books and everything.
Well, and there will be another one.
You bet.
And
it may. and I'm excited for that. I mean, because the profile of that whole thing, it's a bigger structure, much bigger structure, because there's levels to that thing. That double T is going to be a little bit higher in the sky, and at least from the presentation I heard this summer, the new double T may be just a skosh bigger. And again, a lot of what's inside that thing is 80s, 90s electronics, and that's the problem. Like, it's a maintenance nightmare, and there's just, we're going to find out here in the next few minutes if it's going to be able to even be picked up and not fall into a zillion little pieces. Who knows? We shall soon see. We've all got our popcorn, and we are tuned in.
You a big popcorn fan?
Yeah, you know what? Lately, yeah, I'm okay with it. It's usually it's sort of one of those things that once I eat a little bit, you got to go the whole bag or whatever. Now all this it's new because we didn't have it when I was a kid. The only flavored popcorn in the world was like Cracker Jacks when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Now all this stuff you can get them like I see Clint in there just destroying some Doritos. Not look like nacho flavored or something. Get something like that. You get the nacho flavored popcorns and all that. That wasn't around when I was a kid. Back when I was a kid, you had popcorn and you had butter, and you had salt. All right, that was how it worked.
There's a place on 4th Street that does specialty popcorn.
Mm-hmm.
Man, they have Snickers popcorn. Ooh. Let me tell you, it's a problem.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
good.
The popcorn game has been raised over the years.
This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line from our friend El Jefe. It's about time that America's team gets a radio show in Lubbock. Go Astros. This on the chat line. Have they decided on where the scoreboard will end up?
No, hopefully not in 72 pieces. Literally as they pick it up, they just don't know yet. I don't know. I've never really heard them say if they pull this thing off and are able to take it over there and, this crane sets it down in one piece, have they gone, okay, so we can move that thing? Then, do they have a plan for it? I don't know. I don't think it's something they've ever publicized, probably because they don't want to get our hopes up.
It's hard to plan when you don't know.
Yeah. Well, and you don't want to announce these grand plans to everybody and go, hey, it's going to be right there on the corner of so-and-so and such, or out in left field, or over at the track, or whatever. And then it falls into 18 pieces, and we all go, oh.
You know what? We're going to take it to a scoreboard ranch in Pennsylvania, and it's going to get to play with a bunch of other scoreboards.
There you go. That's beautiful. Or it might get euthanized here in a little bit. I don't know. We're trying to give it a humane ending. I don't know. We'll see.
There's a scoreboard shelter, and everyone should adopt from there.
Yes. That's beautiful.
This on the chat line. What's up with the weak non-conference schedule? I assume this is talking about Tech basketball. It wasn't. I mean, I think given your conference, it's about standard. I mean,
I don't think. I was going to say I can't. I'm okay with the texter referencing it as a week. I mean, that's your perception of it. But I would tell you that if this schedule is weak, then the last 5 years were weak. And I would say that mostly because the thing in Maui was a bear in terms of what first of all, you played Creighton, you played Ohio State. Nobody bargained for Louisville to be that bad. But I think, and so you get those three, and then you've got the uncertainty of, hey, when they're putting the schedule together a year or two ago, they're going, hey, we got a Big East team coming. Now, the only thing they knew is that would be in Lubbock this year. And so I don't, when you think about, hey, you're going to have 4 pretty good brands right there.
Yeah, in most years, when you're playing Louisville and Georgetown, it's going to be a positive for you. Whether it's like a gigantic positive for you or not, it's still you would sure think you'd bet on it being a positive. And this year, it's just not. They're just nothing. That's really nobody's fault. You can't predict these things. I think that you can certainly take issue with kind of how the standard schedule is kind of put together for a lot of these power conference schools. But this is pretty much the formula. Much like for the football team, it's FCS, Group of 5, Power 5 in the non-conference.
Exactly.
More Tech Talk next.
the podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey there, it's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Dr. Mike Gustafson and Clint, not a good rememberer, Scott. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you today.
Is that a real word?
It is now.
Oh, it is?
Like nervous clapter.
Yes, it is. That's right.
Joining you today from the First United Bank studio. Here with you until 6:30. We'll have Thursday night football coming up for you this evening at that time. Bills at the Patriots. We'd love to get your thoughts and your comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at doublet97.3.com. All guests appear via the Benchmark hotline. Gus, you traveled into the archives last night and discovered some archival footage of yourself.
Yeah, we the yesterday it was an on this date type moment, but yesterday's on this date was in 1991, and it was Texas Tech. I think the final score was like 52-46, which really was I think it set scoring records and stuff, and at that point in time, but Tech won a shootout with Houston at the Astrodome. Folks might remember it because Rodney Blackshear had a couple 100 yards receiving and this and that, but it was Milo, where you're going with this. That's the Tech context. Robert Hall had a big day. The fellows won, whatever. Where you're going with this is I sent this to Clint and Aaron that, hey, on this day kind of thing, which we would do that every once in a while. But this was also the day that I became an All Southwest Conference get back coach, and from the broadcast, the TV broadcast, which is on YouTube and different places, I had clipped. It was, I don't know, a year ago. It was definitely before I was broadcasting with you guys. Two little 5-second clips of me on the sidelines. Both times wisely locating myself near Coach Spike Dykes, again, 1991. And
they don't make sideline gear like that anymore.
No. Yeah, that was some different. But that was also when they were first starting to sell, like, that you could go buy some of the coaching gear, like one of the coaching shirts.
Double T 97.3
those
and
things
Double
were
T
harder to come by. Logo gear
97.3.com
was
with
harder to
Dr.
come by
Mike
back then.
Gustafson. And
anyway, so I sent you guys two little 5-second clips of me. Because we really
Aaron
did
Dickens.
Back then do some
We're
get back
joining
coach
today.
stuff,
Is that a real word?
and most like
It is
the
now.
one of the little clips I sort of walk
nervous
between.
clapter.
I
Yes,
kind of
it
walk
is.
in front of Coach
Right.
Dykes,
Joining
like,
us
hey,
today
get
from
out of the way,
the
pal.
First United Bank studio.
But I think what we were
Here
doing
with
was a
you
lot of
until
times when
6:30,
kicks
we'll
and
have
punch, you would
Thursday
one guy
night
would get one end and one guy would get the other. Because most of the time the focus is there at the line of scrimmage, right?
Patriots.
But
We'd love to
the
get your
referees
thoughts
need to
and
be able to
your
run down
comments
there, and I'm
on the
pointing
Yates
off in the
Flooring
distance down there where the
Center
punt
chat line
returner
at
is. And so
Double-T
I don't remember the exact circumstances of it, but
all guests
I would
appear
go
via
down there and try to make sure our
Benchmark
guys were. Have somebody, just two
hotline.
guys down there, the backup kickers or
Gus,
whatever,
you,
down there talking, and then you get a
traveled
ref
into
running
the
into them and the flag
archives
flies.
last
And so,
and
yeah, that was
discovered
my
some,
peak
footage
peak
of
moment as
yourself.
a get back coach. Because I only went on one road trip as a GA strength coach back then.
yesterday,
The whole staff was about
it was an on this date
type moment. But yesterday, not like it was today, but yesterday's on this date. Yeah, no doubt. It was in 1991, and it was a fun day. A lot of memories because a lot of those guys, which really was Blackshear. I think it set scoring records and some of those guys that had big games at that point in time. And obviously in a winning record, won a shootout with Houston, etc. But yeah, it was at the Astrodome. I might have impressed my remembrance. Rodney Blackshear had a couple 100 yards receiving, and I haven't started bothering you with Miles me, but where you're going with this. That's the Tech context. Robert Hall had a big day. The fellows won. Kept the 6-pack abs. Where you're going with this is chiseled. I sent this to Clint there that hey, on this day kind of thing. Which that's the part that I can still. This was also the day. I wonder what it looked like now that I became
There's
an
only one way to find out. Just like with Jamie and his rat tail, I say
from
the
the
same
broadcast,
thing.
the
One way
TV
to find out.
broadcast. That's right.
Bring it back.
Which is on YouTube.
Can you
imagine upstate New York / a year ago? It was definitely
Jamie
before I
Rat
broadcast.
He's talked about that
off the radio. Two little 5-second clips of me on the sidelines. That's classic. Both times wisely locating myself near Coach Dykes, Spike Dykes, again 1991, and
he'll
They don't make
both
sideline
jump
gear
through
like
a
that
table off
anymore.
of a roof.
No.
After
Yeah,
he's grown his
that was
rat
some
tail.
different. But that was also when they were first starting to sell like,
Off the roof.
This,
You know the Bills.
that you
it's-
could
it's
go
December the 1st,
buy
right?
some of the
The
coaching
Bills
gear, like one
are
of the coaching
8-3.
shirts.
They
with the
have
LFC
one of the
logo.
best
You know, those
records
things were harder to
in
come
the
by. Logoed
AFC,
gear was harder to
right?
come by
They're-
back then. But
a
anyway, so I
favorite,
sent you guys two little 5-second
top
clips of me
contender to make
because we really
the
did
Super
back then
Bowl,
do
one
some
of the
get
best
back coach
QBs.
stuff, and most like
Have
the
not
little one of the
won a
little clips I
division
sort of
game.
walked between.
Wow.
You know, I kind of walk in front of
Really?
Coach
They're
Dykes. Like,
0-2.
hey, get out of the way, pal.
Big one
But-
tonight.
But I think what
Yeah.
we were doing
No,
was
there's
a lot
no
of
doubt.
times on kicks and punch, you would,
Wow.
you know, one guy would get
And
one
that
end and
division's
one guy would get the other.
a little bit
most of the time
salty
the
'cause
focus
nobody
is
in
there
that
at the line of
division is
scrimmage,
terrible.
right?
Sure, they
But
lost by 2
the
to
referees need to be able to
Dolphins,
run
early in
down
the season,
there
week 3,
and pointing off
and
in
they
the
lost
distance
just
down
a
there
few
where the
weeks ago
punt
to the
returner
Jets.
is. And so
Yeah, that was
I
the
don't
big
remember the
upset.
exact circumstances
By,
of it, but
by
I
3.
would go down there and try to make sure our guys were. You know, have somebody just two guys
Need
down
this
there,
one.
the backup kickers or whatever,
Yeah,
down
no
there
doubt.
talking, and
But
then
yeah,
the
that's
ref running into them and a
that
flag
division
flies,
is
and so.
it does have a little.
But yeah, that was
little
my
starch to it.
that was
You
my
don't have
peak moment
you don't
as
have
a
the crappy
get back
team there at
coach
the bottom that you get to
because I
beat
only
up
went
on
on one road
twice.
trip.
Not
as a
this year.
GA strength
And
coach
that's,
back then.
I mean,
Of course,
that's
the whole
very
staff
Big
was
12
about 4
like.
people.
I mean, I'm looking
so
at
three or four people. So
because I've looked back at
it was
past
not like it
Tech
was
football
today, but
seasons,
yeah,
a little
I
bit
don't-
here and there.
Yeah, no doubt, but a good
over the last several days, kind of trying
a
to
fun
put this
day, a
7
lot
and
of
5 in
memories because of a
perspective
lot of
just
those
for myself
guys
more than anything
you know,
else.
Blackshear
It's
Tech
we
Athletic
forget,
Hall of
man,
Fame. Some of those guys
Baylor
that had
was
big
an automatic
games
W
that day,
for like a decade.
and obviously in a win,
You know,
winning
I mean,
winning
with
record
those
that season.
non-conference schedules that
et
you
cetera,
had, you
but
could
yeah,
you
it was,
woke up in the morning
I might have
knowing
impressed my friends
August
Clinton
1st
Aaron
that
with
hey,
my little.
you're going to have at least 4 wins in this.
I haven't
this
started
football.
bothering you with all the
because back
videos
then
that
you
were
were
popping
playing
out
Baylor
every
you
year.
should have
And
you should
you
have kept
had
the mullet.
every 4 years you had 2
I started
games
kept
with
the
six-pack abs,
Kansas,
which
which
got
well,
better,
that too,
chiseled.
yeah.
Like if you go
Bod
back
and
to
the
like
whole
the
other-
Leach decade,
Mullet's
you
number
know, that
one.
certainly
on
got
that list.
good. In
Now,
the
that's the
second
part
half
that
of
I could
that
still
decade.
address.
Yeah, they were ranked when you played them in
What would it
08,
look like
right?
now?
It was a tie
There's
game
only
in
one way to
2009
find out.
here.
Just like
You
with
only won by
Jamie and his
21
rat
points.
tail, I say the
Earlier
same
in
thing.
that
One way
decade,
to
they weren't
find out.
great.
That's right.
But
Bring it
can,
back.
Still beat you.
can you imagine
Yeah,
upstate
absolutely.
New York
But Iowa
/
State
East
was
Texas, Jamie
not-
Rattail?
usually
He's
not
talked
very
about
good,
that
although
off
they
the
beat
radio
us in
with
names
names
like
that
on
one
baseball
year.
road trips.
That's
And
classic,
Seneca Wallace.
man. Yeah, and then right in
Off
there,
here.
the,
I'm
the
trying to get
stretch.
if the Bills
What was the
win
coach
Super
between
Bowl,
Bill Snyder
Ron
stretches?
Prince.
will,
Yeah, the
Howard
Ron
Towel.
Prince.
Table
Yeah,
off of
those
a
weren't
roof
good years. Like
after
they
he's
came
grown
here
his
when
rat tail.
when Slade knocked the QB into the
Off
middle
the
of next
roof.
I
week.
think
This,
that
you know,
was Bill Snyder's last year.
December the
That was 1st, 05.
that they were just starting
The
to
Bills
nose over
are
a little bit.
8-3.
and-
They have one of the best records
actually one
in
time.
the
in
AFC
in
right?
Manhattan. You
They're
just smoked them,
a
and then you got
favorite, sleep canned,
you know,
and then you played them
top
in
contender to
2009,
make
Bill Snyder's first
the
year
Super
back,
Bowl.
one of the
and
best QBs.
knocked the crap out
Have
of them
not
too.
won.
But that's
a
very
division
well
game.
said. Your point is right. There was 3 or 4
Really?
wins
They're 0-2
on that schedule every year without much trouble. Big one tonight.
Tech
Yeah,
talk
no,
next.
there's no doubt.
Wow. And that division's a little bit salty because nobody in that division is terrible.
They lost by 2 to the Dolphins early in the season, week 3, and they lost just a few weeks ago to the Jets
Yeah, that was the big upset.
by 3. Need this one.
Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, that's that division is that does have a little starch to it. You don't have the crappy team there at the bottom that you get to beat up on twice. Not this year.
And that's very Big 12 like. I mean, I'm looking at because I've looked back at past Tech football seasons, you know, here and there over the last several days, kind of trying to put this 7-5 in perspective, just for myself more than anything else. And it's like we forget, man. Baylor was an automatic W for like a decade. You know, I mean, with those non-conference schedules that you had, you woke up in the morning knowing August 1st that hey, you're going to have at least 4 wins in this football season.
Yeah, because back then you were playing Baylor every year, and you had every 4 years you had 2 games with Kansas, which got better. Like if you go back to like the Leach decade, you know, that certainly got good in the second half of that decade.
Yeah, they were ranked when you played them in 08.
right.
It was a tie game in 2009 here, even though you won by 21 points.
Earlier in that decade, they weren't great, but
Still beat you.
yeah,
In
absolutely.
2001.
But Iowa State was
Not very
usually
good.
not very good, although they beat us in Ames that one year. And then
Seneca Wallace.
yeah, and then right in there the stretch what was the coach between Bill Snyder
Ron
stretches?
Prince.
Yeah, the
Power
Ron
towel.
Prince. Yeah, those weren't good years. Like they came here when Slay knocked the QB into the middle of next week.
I think that was Bill Snyder's last year.
Okay.
That was 05.
That they were just starting to nose over a little bit. And
I think you only played Ron Prince actually one time.
One time,
In
yeah.
08 in Manhattan, you just smoked him, and then he got bleep canned, and then you played them in 2009, Bill Snyder's first year back, and knocked the crap out of them too.
But that's very well said. Your point is right. There was 3 or 4 wins on that schedule every year without much trouble.
More Tech Talk next.
You've been listening to the Tech Talk podcast from Double T 97.3. Check out Double T973.com for more from Lubbock Sports Station.